All right. Hi, everyone, and thanks for joining me as I review the picks. Well, the different devices I decided to recommend yesterday during my Tech Word Buying newsletter. Um, yeah, this week, yeah, prices were really good yesterday. Let's see how this is holding up now. Mm-mm. Just need to bring that up here. All right. So overall, yeah, IC market prices jumped up from yesterday. Yesterday it was pretty much, well, not record breaking, but a 6 month low. And yeah, it went up today by, let's see, 1200, and yesterday was. So almost $50 up since yesterday. It's kind of the way things go overall. And yeah, I remember yesterday, even while I was picking devices for the newsletter, some of them were already getting out of stock. So yeah, definitely a few of the things I had my eyes on were going pretty quick from retailers' shelves. So let's see if that affected my list or not. So for accessories, I went for really affordable stuff. This keyboard and mouse set here is, yeah, really, you could describe that as nothing special. It's really a basic set of keyboard and mouse, and for $30 only, and prices seem to be holding steady since it dropped yesterday. Not by a huge margin, as you see, but still pretty interesting drop. And yeah, you can get it new online only from Best Buy. If you need something a little bit more precise, a bit more uh, performance oriented, I would say, this optical gaming mouse is worth a look. It's still very affordable model, a simple one. Nothing really fancy about this model, but yeah, it's just a fairly easy way to get the benefits of gaming grade hardware. You get adjustable DPI, so more precise mouse. You can adjust the sensitivity on the fly, and an overall really rugged mouse with. They tend to be a little bit better built than your run-of-the-mill mouse. So yeah, if you need something a little bit more performant, that's definitely worth a look. And yeah, if what you're looking for is basically upgrade your stationary setup for your computer, whether it's a laptop or a desktop computer, Uh, this screen is worth a look right now. Dropped in price a little bit since last week, so always good. And I could have picked a monitor under the $100 mark fairly easily. However, I upgraded my budget a little bit when picking this monitor, mostly because you get an IPS monitor in this one instead of just getting the cheaper panel. So IPS usually gives you better colors, better viewing angles. So if there's more than one person standing around the computer, that's definitely a plus for that, or just if you tend to move quite a bit while using it. overall you're going to get a better performance on that, and it's going to be easier on the eyes as well. So yeah, worth the slight upgrade in my opinion. Could have paid maybe $40 less for a non-IPS monitor in the same, pretty much the same size. So yeah, depending what your priorities are, but this week I decided to go for the 60 hertz IPS LED display. And for smartphones, I went with the LG G5 again as my, how would I say, mobile camera on a budget. That thing had pretty good performance in terms of photography, especially if you really are into photography and want it in a smartphone, but don't need the phone all that much. You can look into getting some of the gadgets for the G5 as well that add shutter control and adds to the battery life a little bit as well. So if you want a grip handle with a shutter control and all of that, that's an option for the G5. That's not an option that, well, didn't do well commercially. So we end up with basically this is the first and the last of its kind. So if it's an option that's interesting to you, well, time is running out to get that sort of thing. It's also the last flagship smartphone that has a removable battery in it. So if that's something important to you, and yeah, in my opinion, it should. This is also sadly the last of its kind. So yeah, a little bit older, but yeah, overall you get a good camera. Maybe not the it being a little bit older, it might start showing its age in terms of basically software updates and all of that, especially since commercially that was not a great device there. Manufacturers are more likely to turn away and start neglecting a device when that happens. So, you know, a few caveats there, but if interesting to look at nonetheless, especially if you're very focused on getting a good camera for very little money. And it's pretty, as I said, that this was a flagship device, so we get pretty good performance out of it despite its age. And yeah, we reached the recommended specs, i.e. 3 stars in quite a few different mobile apps, which are still very popular. And yeah, 2 stars pretty much the most I expect to it with stuff like Microsoft Word and so on. Simply because, well, you don't have all the features in the mobile version of Word compared to the desktop version. It's just the reality of life. But as by mobile device standard, this is pretty much as good as it gets. If you want something a little bit more premium, a little bit newer, it's still possible to get something really nice without paying a premium for what is essentially just the it's 2 generations back, so almost 2 years. But the truth is, smartphones haven't changed all that much since that time. So the Galaxy S7 is still quite powerful, still has a very capable camera. Samsung makes some of the best mobile camera on the market, and definitely still worth a look. And That one too is going to stop receiving updates probably pretty quick, but by mobile phone standards, you can still expect a pretty full life out of this, even if you're pretty deep into mobile apps and all of that. You know, as long as you don't need the latest, greatest, this Galaxy S7 is still definitely worth considering. And at its current price, it's definitely an attractive deal. And in terms of performance, as you see, it's faring a little bit better than the LG G5, simply because it is younger. Maybe a little bit more powerful as well. So yeah, you just don't get the gimmick of being able to snap gadgets on it, and yeah, no removable batteries in this one. So yeah, that can definitely be a downside. And if you want something that is from the current year, my pick would probably be the OnePlus 6. Definitely shows sign of being from the latest generation. As you see, there's a notch in the screen. There, the back of the phone is made of glass. Those are all things that are trendy right now. Sadly enough. Because all of those things definitely come with pretty significant drawbacks too. But yeah, that's pretty much the state of the cutting edge right now. And if that's what you want, the OnePlus 6 is a very it's a very capable phone. Lots of RAM in those, which enable them to switch from app to app really quickly. Got a dual camera setup on there, although the camera is not one of the main selling points. But the truth is, by today's standards, even the okay camera is pretty damn good. So yeah, usually, yeah, unless you're very, very demanding for the photos you take, I'm pretty confident that you will be happy with the photos the OnePlus 6 takes, even though the LG G5 and the Samsung S7 did rate a little better on those front with more most reviewers, even though it's a few. This one is a few years on the other two. But yeah, otherwise it's definitely quite a bit more capable, and it can run a few games a little bit better than the other two as a result of that. But where you're going to see the most difference, really, from that extra horsepower in there, is simply that it's going to be easier and faster to switch from app to app with this compared to the other phones. That's usually where you see the biggest difference with mobile devices, really. Unless your phone is very, very old, usually it's going to run most apps no problem. And on the tablets front, the most affordable option in there is this convertible Chromebook. This particular model comes very often in recommendation. I remember recommending it last week, and yeah, here it is. So yeah, definitely comes back often for one simple reason. This is a very versatile device, especially for the price. It costs less than the other tablets I've picked this week, in part because the Amazon Fire HD 8 is currently out of stock. But still, for $340, you get something that you can use as both a laptop or a tablet. And sure, if by tablet standard, it's relatively bulky. We have an 11.6-inch screen on this one, so definitely a larger tablet, but having the keyboard built in with the extra ports and all of that, it's definitely a plus for productivity on the go. If you compare that to, let's say, an iPad where you don't have a USB port put your USB stick in if you need to, this one you can, and you've got the a better keyboard in it right off the bat compared to the keyboard cover you could get for the iPad for an extra $150 if it's not $200. So yeah, definitely a better option in my eye if you absolutely want a keyboard on your mobile device. And since this is running Chrome OS and Android as well, you get access to most mobile apps, and you can run quite a few things in there, including Microsoft Word and Excel. Obviously, you get the mobile version from Android for that, or you can run the web version as well. And yeah, Chromebooks are faring better and better even when you have to use them on offline. So you know, it's a very versatile one. Although for gaming, it's definitely not the best in the list. Which takes me to the Nintendo Switch, which is definitely the apex gaming device out there, and it's still at a very good price at $380 instead of $400 as it used to be from Best Buy right now. So definitely worth a look, especially if your main focus is gaming, simply because, well, for $400 you get something you can carry around with you or use as a stationary console, and it runs games very well. The downside to it, obviously, is that it does nothing but gaming. So you won't be able to watch YouTube videos, Netflix, or you know, go on social media sites or anything of that nature on this tablet. So big downside that you should be aware of there. However, yeah, if gaming is your main focus, it's definitely going to blow every other options out of the water there, including several exclusive titles. Yeah, Warframe is on the list in there, even though it's not quite out yet, but it's in the works. So yeah, if you wanted to play Warframe on the go, that might be the way to do it. And otherwise, we get the, how would I say, the domain leader in terms of tablet, the current gen iPad, which is at its regular price. Costco is selling it for $10 less than everybody else, or at least they do online. So yeah, most of us know what to expect from an iPad right now. So definitely not a lot of innovation going on there, and it's good and bad for accessories, and since that you can, it's super easy to get accessories for an iPad, and since there are so many of them, competition's so fierce, so your standard accessories can be a little bit cheaper on the iPad compared to what they would be for other devices. The downside of it is that, yeah, if you've been eyeing that keyboard or something along those lines, that stylus that Apple is selling, well, as I said, the stylus is almost $200, and so is the keyboard cover. So let's look at this. We've got a 400 tablet. You're going to add almost $400 in accessories on top of it. at that price point, I would be very tempted to look into a laptop instead, personally. But that's me. Obviously, the iPad is quite attractive for its ease of transportation. It's really easy to take around with you everywhere and all of that. And having access to the Apple App Store, you get access to a few things the others don't necessarily, or sometimes they take a little longer. Fortnite is a big one, even though the it doesn't hold a candle to um, the Nintendo Switch if what you want to do is play Fortnite. But yeah, it's there. Definitely not there on Android, or at least not right now. And yeah, you've got access to quite a few things. So yeah, there's that flexibility if you wanted to either stay on the Apple bandwagon for the iPad or jump on it. Well, there's definitely a few reasons to do so, and it's pretty affordable to do so right now. iPads used to be almost $700 a pop, and yeah, they're in the $420 range now. So it's definitely a price I'm more comfortable recommending them. Otherwise, if you need something, you know, more work capable, especially if you really wanted a keyboard on that iPad, as I mentioned earlier, well, we've got a few laptops option we can look at. And let's see, that option is still holding on, still from, this one is from Best Buy. And yeah, it's not the most powerful thing out there, not by a long shot. However, it's still worth a look, especially considering um, all the stuff you can do for only $500. The screen is not the best. You don't have a lot of room to work on this, despite the fact that it's a 15-inch laptop. However, you might be interested in that since having a lower resolution means that things are going to be displayed a little bit larger on this. So if you tend to strain your eyes a little bit more than you'd like and stuff like that, obviously with Windows there's quite a few options to solve that, but right off the bat, without you touching anything, this will display them a little larger. So naturally things will be a little bit magnified compared to higher end laptops. So that might be a reason to look into it. So it's good for your everyday needs. As you see, it's relatively, it's not breaking record anywhere in terms of compatibility. It's able to do a little bit of everything. It's not excelling at much. So we only get recommended specs for Psy, for Inkscape, for QuickBooks, FL Studio. If you like to do music, you can already consider that with this. More music production, probably with loops you would get from somewhere else, not necessarily stuff that you would record yourself. Ableton Live, so similar deal there. Microsoft Word, you get the full 5 stars. So if you just wanted something for homework and stuff like that, it might actually be a fine choice. You don't need to invest more than $500. That just right there. Same thing with GIMP. If you want to edit your photos and stuff like that without paying for, let's say, Photoshop or something like that. So yeah, it's definitely a lot you can do with that laptop already. Otherwise, if you need to multitask a little bit more, this laptop is making a comeback from last week. It's available only online. So if you don't like shopping, if you're uncomfortable shopping for a computer online, this would not be for you, but it's the best deal right now on this configuration of a laptop. And it's a classic one, it's been a classic for at least a year and a half. So it's the combination of this specific i5 processor with 8 gigs of RAM, 1 terabyte of hard drive, and a 1080p screen for 650, which is a pretty good deal for that. So by getting a full HD screen, it's a little bit easier to manage multiple documents at once, especially if you need them side by side. So this laptop is going to be a lot better at if you have to work with multiple documents at once, if you like to have something open in the corner or something like that while you work. Still not a gaming laptop, even though it's definitely more capable than the previous model. So we get a 1-star with Premiere. So yeah, it's definitely, you could consider editing your family home videos on this easily. It's not a bad choice for that sort of thing. World of Warcraft, if you want to play that on your laptop, you can. And yeah, you get quite a few things that were not available on the previous model, like Fortnite was there, but I remember, I'm pretty sure The Sims wasn't, and you know, a few things like that. So you have a few additional entertainment options, which are very popular right now, despite the fact that, yeah, it's not technically a gaming laptop. Otherwise, if you need to play more games which are more demanding, this 15-inch laptop could definitely be worth a look. It's at the same price it was yesterday. It's still fairly easy to get, and if you're willing to get it open box online from Best Buy, you can get it from only $800. Otherwise, if you want a new, you're going to look at $1,000 for Amazon, or if you're more comfortable with Best Buy but only online again, we're looking at $1,100. So it goes up really quick. But yeah, if you're not intimidated by open boxes, it's a pretty significant saving. And Best Buy is doing is applying a lot of rebates to their open box inventory right now. So yeah, there's quite a few deals to go get that way. Yeah, definitely noticed that yesterday when their sales kicked in, a lot of open box were significantly reduced. And we still only get 1 star in Fortnite, despite this being quote unquote a gaming laptop. But it's going to be able to run Fortnite a little bit better for sure. Even though we don't reach the recommended settings yet. But yeah, Minecraft, we get a 5 stars, which means that if you want to apply lots of mods and have a long view distance and all of that, you can consider that for this laptop, no problem. You get a 1 star with Rainbow Six Siege if you want to play it. So, you know, definitely more options in terms of gaming. Definitely going to perform better in program like Premiere and the Creative Suite from Adobe and all of that. And yeah, definitely a better laptop for either gaming or working with multimedia in general. It's going to be a little bit more to point for that. But if what you're looking for is something that will last a longer period of time on a battery, a smaller laptop, a lesser laptop, if you look at it in terms of performance, would be a better pick, and this convertible laptop is definitely one of them. So as I mentioned earlier, by adding a keyboard and a stylus to an iPad, you can get to almost $800. This is a convertible laptop with a larger screen than an iPad, and it's for $900, so a little bit more, and you still don't have the stylus on this one. But still, just comparing that, you get the mobile version of Photoshop on one, you get the full-blown version of Photoshop on this one. It's easy to get that you get more for your money, at least in my opinion. So yeah, thinner laptop, faster hard drives than most of what we've seen so far, and it's convertible into a tablet, so if you need a tablet for whatever reason, this can be used as one, even though it's going to be a very meaty tablet. This is a 13-inch laptop, so as by laptop standard it's tiny, by tablet standard it's huge. So that's kind of the issue with convertible laptops overall. But yeah, it's very adaptable. If you need a laptop to follow you around from meeting to meeting and stuff like that, it's definitely a choice worth considering under $1,000. And being able to use it as a tent like this could come in handy for your PowerPoint presentations and stuff like that. So if you do most of your work away from your desk, Microsoft is currently selling those online and in stores. And in terms of what it can run, we have a pretty good spread there. But yeah, as you see, it runs quite a few games out there, and the most popular programs on the site right now are definitely either games or creative software, especially for video or music. So those are coming ahead. But yeah, the Microsoft Office suite is not showing on the list in there, but yes, it's going to be able to run that very well. Otherwise, another laptop with a similar design but a more premium kind of construction, the XPS 13-inch Ultrabook. Well, it's been a classic for road warriors for a long time, simply because it's quite capable for the size, but it's small enough, light enough, and has great battery life. So if you again do most of your work away from your desk, it's worth looking into. It's got a smaller hard drives than the other ones, got a better screen, however, with a higher resolution. So definitely worth a look for that, especially if you work with graphics and stuff like that. And the more premium construction might also mean that you might be more comfortable taking that into meetings. The one thing to keep in mind, however, is that yeah, unlike the previous one, it's not a convertible. You still have a touchscreen, so if you want to set up on a corner of a desk and just swipe from slide to slide in PowerPoint, you can do that. In this one, you just can't turn it into a tent or a tablet or anything like that. So a little bit, you don't get that conversion factor as much, but truth is, with convertible tablets, from what I hear, very few people are using that feature anyway. So yeah, we get the pretty much the same, pretty similar spread of programs compared to the previous one. It's mostly the same capability, better screen, better construction, and a smaller hard drive. So if nothing there is bothering you too much, it might be worth a look, especially if, yeah, you prefer having a premium laptop, something that's going to feel a little sturdier and is probably going to look a little bit more. Well, the other one looked pretty good already, but this is going to look more professional, more premium. So if you're representing a company or something like that, could be worth the investment just for that. And if we go back to gaming, but at a higher price point, we have this 15-inch gaming laptop. So we definitely gain a lot of power from switching from the previous laptop here, but it's very capable laptop. But we sacrifice a lot of ease of transportation, both in terms of the size of the device. We're up to a 15-inch laptop, which compared to a 13-inch model is pretty significant in size, even though there's definitely bigger than this. It's still small enough that you can carry it, so we're looking at almost 2.5 kg, while the previous one was, yeah, half of that. So, bulky, heavy, but still portable on a daily basis if that's what you need. Just make sure that you have relatively easy access to a power outlet during the day, because this won't last a day on battery power, especially if you're using the laptop to its full power. Because yeah, with that kind of hardware, you can drain a battery dry really quickly. We're talking half an hour pretty much. So don't expect to be playing in the middle of the cafeteria with this. You will need a power outlet. And it's available currently online only, either from Newegg or Amazon. Prices are pretty similar. Might even be Newegg selling, being the seller on Amazon. I wouldn't even be surprised by that. Yeah, overall, it's definitely a very capable laptop in a portable format, even though it's not the most portable one. Still get 1 star in Fortnite, which surprises me. Let's see. Yeah, it's only GeForce 1050 in there, so that explains the 1 star. I still have to do 2 stars and 4 stars in there, implement that in the new compatibility system, as well as factor partial stars as well. So I'll have to look into that. So yeah, I would probably expect this would be at least 2 stars. But yeah, that's one thing that maybe I'll be able to work on during the weekend. Not sure. So new features for TechAdvisor there. But yeah, 3 stars in Premiere. So if you want to edit video, we're starting to have something pretty serious there for that sort of need. Same thing with the big creative suites, but since it's only a GeForce 1050 in there, we're not rising very high in terms of what kind of game we can aspire to play on this one. But the thing is, yeah, you would need to invest into something pretty massive, pretty very expensive in order to beat those scores on the laptop, and usually I try to stop around the 1800 price range pretty much. Which brings me to the stationary computers. I don't have that a low price refurbished option this week. There were pretty inexpensive brand new devices to pick from, so I started straight from this one. Available, it's refurbished only again, but yeah, this one available from eBay and Newegg, and it's a pretty capable device with a large hard drive and a bit more RAM than usual. So it's a better choice if, you know, I mentioned working with multiple documents at once with previous with the laptops before. Well, this is going to be able to run circles around those, simply because you're going to have at least a 22-inch screen instead of 15 plus more power, a lot more space to stock photos if you have a collection of photos, music, and movies that you like to keep on a hard drive instead of streaming it from the cloud. This is definitely very tempting for that sort of thing. And you have the option of having more than one monitor in there. So if multitasking is a big concern for you, there's a lot of options to get that done with this computer, even though it's refurbished. But yeah, quite affordable. So delivering quite a lot for the price. It's not a media station. Doesn't have graphics hardware or anything like that, or at least nothing above, you know, the basics. So you're still able to run quite a few games, including Fortnite and Minecraft. You're not going to go very, you know, it's going to be fine to edit your family videos and stuff like that, but I wouldn't go much more serious than that with this specific computer. But still, for $500, it's a lot of open doors for the price. If we invest a little bit more, this one is new, although it's sold from a pretty unconventional place. This is a leftover. This used to be considered a gaming desktop I would say 1 or 2 years ago. And right now, London Drugs still has one that they're attempting to sell on their website. And the thing is, for $850, this offers quite a bit. We get the same amount of memory and same size of hard drive as the previous option. So lots of storage space for the media you might be working on. We got a graphics card, however, which means that when it comes to Premiere, for instance, or more demanding games like Rainbow Six Siege, we already managed to get a much better compatibility score already. So definitely worth a look there, especially if you like to play with media a little bit, or have relatively humble needs in terms of gaming. For $850, worth a look. And yeah, might sounds a little bit weird to shop for a computer at the same place where you could buy band-aids and mouthwash and that sort of thing. But yeah, London Drugs is a retailer in the West with a pretty serious IT IT section, I would say. So yeah, it's not as weird as it sounds. And yeah, for more serious needs, and more serious budgets as well. We've got this Strix GD300 here for $1,400 from Best Buy. And as you can see, that jumped up in price from yesterday. And the reason is, yesterday they had an open box for sale for, if I remember right, $1,000. So $1,000 for an i7 16 gigs of RAM, a GeForce 1060, and a combination of 1 terabyte hard drive with 120 gigs SSD. That's a very good deal. Sadly, it's gone now. It still lines up. Actually, it flats out beats the strongest laptop we just saw in terms of what it's capable to run and all of that. But basically, the deal on this one is gone simply because, well, they sold that open box unit. And yeah, the new model is nowhere near as discounted as the open box. So I'm not very tempted by that for one simple reason. Yes, we've got great score and all of that, but then we've got this guy. So we get, it's a little bit more expensive, not by much, but we get a pretty significant step up from the processor, and yeah, I like that storage configuration a little bit more. But where this is going to shine the most is that this is a build-to-order computer from Memory Express, which is, sure, it might not be available in your location. Memory Express is pretty common in the Western province. They have several locations in BC, Alberta, and Manitoba at this point. Expanding pretty fast too. It's been my favorite place to go shop for a new computer for the last, just let me check, 14 years. And yeah, basically you with those pre-configured builds they have on their website, you get a detailed list of everything they have in there. And the good thing is that I feel very comfortable recommending those because all the components are pretty much, everything is in line with what I would personally pick for my own computer. So they definitely know their stuff. Great service, and with a computer like that, you're going to have more expansion and maintenance option than you would with a factory built system like this one. So for a $50 difference, this I expect to be able to keep in running order for less in the coming years. So in the long terms, in my opinion, this pays by itself. If you don't have a Memory Express location near to you, well, you can always just look at their website. If you're not comfortable essentially ordering from them, well, just print the page, bring it to your local PC builder, and ask them if they can build a similar model for a similar price, because the list of parts is all there. So definitely worth considering. And in terms of what we can run, well, as you see, we've got pretty high ratings everywhere there. Planet Coaster is a little on the lower side, which surprises me. I reviewed the hardware requirement on that. It should be lower a little bit. So I'm a little surprised there. Maybe it doesn't like the processor as much or something like that. Yeah, I'll have to look into that. But yeah, you run it at least at the minimal recommended specs, which is already not bad. Probably more of a 2-star rating than a 1, 2. But otherwise, if we want to invest even more, there's a huge rebate on this Omen Gaming PC over at Best Buy right now. And as I mentioned previously, yes, those factory built system offer fewer options for upgrades and features and stuff like that, which is a huge deal for gaming. And that's, in my opinion, one of the biggest downsides of laptop for gamers is that, well, after 3 years, your whole computer is good except for the graphics card, which you probably will want to replace at that point. With a desktop computer, you just slap a new graphics card in there. In my case, I spent $150 for a new card 4 years in. And that did the trick for me. All of a sudden, I was able to play 60 FPS games again. So, yeah, not having that option just means that, yeah, you're buying a complete new computer every 3 years with a desktop computer with a discrete GPU. You just replace the GPU, which is not an option for most laptops. Barely saw any of those even. So, definitely worth to look for, you know, the long term. And even though this is a factory built system, at least all the components are there and they're discrete and standard enough that you can replace them pretty easily. The downsides of factory built system in terms of maintenance and upgrades simply that you usually have fewer ports on the motherboard. They try to limit the number of features on the motherboard as much as possible. But usually you get a slightly better price, especially when they're reduced or they have rebates as generous as this one right now. It's also, I don't have the specs on this actually, but it's pretty common for a factory built gaming PC to have Wi-Fi, while for custom built one, usually you don't get Wi-Fi on a desktop. Reason simply that a wired connection is going to be flat out better than a Wi-Fi connection any day of the week for on both performance, reliability, and just stability. You can sometimes get similar numbers on a Wi-Fi connection in terms of speed, but it's not going to be constant. It's going to be in bursts, simply because while the connection is not as constant with a wire, you get something that is steadier overall. So, but problem is if you don't own a house or want to set up your gaming PC in a room that doesn't have network right now, that being able to have Wi-Fi might be a big deal. Those come straight out with it. Obviously, you could add that to a custom build computers for very little money, maybe $30. So not a deal breaker, especially if you get it built. It's very easy to just tell the guys, hey, could you add a Wi-Fi card in there, and how much would that cost, right? So, but those come with them built in, and usually since that come standard, you don't pay extra for that, while for custom built one, well, you do, or at least most of the time, because you know you're getting out of the norm. So not necessarily my favorite option, simply because, as I mentioned, I prefer stuff that is standard, easier to maintain and all of that, but is maintainable to a degree that most people probably won't feel any restriction in this, and it's very capable for relatively low money right now. I mean, getting a 1070 and 16 gigs of RAM and a 256 gigabyte solid state drive with 2 terabyte hard drive right off the bat and that you can just drive to your local Best Buy, grab it, and play it tonight. It's definitely worth a look. It's definitely a good deal for what you get too. So, worth checking out. And as you see, it runs most things at least at a recommended setting level. 1070 card is excellent for playing things in 1080p, a little on the lower side when it comes to playing in 4K if you have a 4K screen, but truth is most people still play at 1080p. So there's no need for most of us to invest more than that $1,700 in a gaming laptop right now, maybe $1,800. But beyond that, it's that yeah, you've taken stuff very seriously, and you probably have a 4K monitor, which most people don't. So definitely no slouch when comes to gaming, and you'll be able to upgrade that fairly easily in a few years, despite maybe not having as many options as a custom built system. But yeah, that was my list for today. So thanks for joining me, and I'll see you next week for another edition of Tech Still Worth Buying. So thanks again, and bye bye.